welcome to the Sagner Family Farm channel. I'm going to start doing kind of some instructional videos, hopefully weekly. Today I'm going to be making some artisan bread. I have the dough that I prepared last night, and it's a simple base dough. It's 3 cups of flour, a half a teaspoon of yeast, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 1.5 cups of water. And that's what you start with. And you literally put the yeast, salt, flour, water in the bowl and stir it up, and then just let it sit out overnight. It's gonna do a slow rise, because with the half teaspoon of yeast, you know, like most bread doughs, if you're gonna bake the same day, you're putting like a packet of yeast, which is like a little over 2 teaspoons. So this half a teaspoon, you're doing a slow rise overnight. So it's super important that you think about it the day before, and just leave it in the counter, leave it to do its thing. And it tastes much better if you let it do the rise overnight. You can do this as a quick bread, same day bake, but you're gonna use a whole packet of yeast, or like 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. So anyway, I've got a regular bread loaf I'll be making, and I have a bread loaf that I have garlic and rosemary and Parmesan added to the dough, and it smells divine. So these artisan loaves bake in these enameled cast iron pans. I have 2 Lodge pans, and I really like these for artisan bread doughs. So what you're gonna do first before you start forming your bread loaves is you're gonna set your oven to 450 degrees, and you're gonna put your pots with your lids on them in there while you're forming your loaves. So I'm gonna go do that real quick and get these in the oven. Okay, so I got those in the oven, and then I've got the bread dough here. I've covered it with saran wrap. This is a pretty wet dough, so it's kind of hard to work with. And I have this mat laid out. I like this for easy cleanup. It's just a silicone mat, and I have a pretty good layer of flour sitting here, and I might need to add more, but I'm going to just kind of scrape this dough out with a little scraper. You can use a spatula or anything. And this is a double batch. So if you're like, that doesn't look like 3 cups of flour, you're totally right, because it's not a double batch. So I'm going to be making actually 4 loaves, 2 regular artisan white country loaves, and 2 of the garlic loaves. Okay, so I've got that set out here. And then I have this scraper, it's metal, and the plastic handle here. And I'm kind of going to scrape some flour towards it and just kind of fold it up over itself. Super helpful tool. And you're going to get some sticking, because this is a very, very sticky dough. Very hydrated dough. But it's super forgiving. You can't really mess it up. And it tastes great too. So tonight we're having some friends over for Bible study. And we're having spaghetti, and then these loaves of bread. You can never have too much bread. Well, you can. My waistline sure thinks you can, but you gotta love the taste of it. Okay, I'm gonna add a little more flour. I can just kind of tell that I need some more here. I just got my bag of flour down here. I buy flour in bulk because I bake quite a bit. Sell my baked goods at the local farmer's market and kind of bake to order. All right, so now I'm gonna separate, and you can weigh this. I'm just gonna eyeball it. It's okay if you have one loaf that's a little bigger and one that's a little smaller. I'm just gonna kind of give that a little space there. And I'm gonna work, now that I've got some of that flour mixed in, now it's gonna be a little more forgiving, and I can work it with my hands. This is a no knead dough, so I'm not kneading. I'm just kind of pulling and folding over on itself, and it's gonna stick to you, so don't be alarmed when it does. Just kind of get your hands floured up real good. Okay, need a little more flour. Okay, sprinkle that on there, move my dough back over, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of take my hands, and I'm gonna fold the dough kind of under itself, and then turn it, kind of fold the dough under itself again. I'm just using my fingertips and taking that edge of the dough and kind of folding it. That's kind of creating some surface tension on the top. And then I'm just gonna kind of move and turn it and kind of, I'm just doing a tucking motion, if you can see that, with my right hand. Super easy, looks a lot more complex than it is once you get the hang of it. And really, you could take this recipe as it, you could take this blob of dough, set it on your parchment paper, and put it in the Dutch oven, and you're gonna still get a beautiful loaf out of it. I just like to kind of form it a little bit and create a little bit of that surface tension. And this looks like it's gonna be a super small bread loaf, but it ends up being pretty good size. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little more flour on there. Okay, and I've got some parchment paper here, super important. You're gonna lay out that parchment paper, and you're gonna put your bread dough and just kind of pick it up, pop it down, kind of do a little, fix it up a little bit, form it again, and you can just see it right there, a little nice little formed circle. Okay, I'm gonna do that again with the second loaf. I kind of work it toward the middle of my mat here with the dough scraper. Fold it over a couple times. Move my flour around and then start kind of working it with my hands. Need a little more flour. So you guys, what I love about this bread base is that you can literally put, any kind of bread you want to imagine, you can use this bread dough for, like jalapeno cheddar. I've done habanero cheddar if you want real spicy, and it's just so good and just so easy. I love bread because it's forgiving. Like you just really can't mess it up much. You get your ratios right, and you're gonna get a beautiful loaf that rises in the oven and be able to totally impress your friends, because who doesn't love homemade bread? I know I do. This is why I work out, you guys, so I can eat baked goods and, not be obese. So anyway, so I've got this one, I'm folding that up. More flour on there. Okay guys, I'm going to set that in the middle there of my parchment paper. You can see I've just got that smack dab in the middle there. It will spread out some. I'm just going to kind of let that rest for a minute while my oven continues to heat up, and then we're going to just plop that in the cast iron pan. Cast iron pans will be hot, be very careful. I've got tile counters, so I can set those hot pans, right on the counter, no problem, but just be careful if you've got Formica or something. And be careful handling the pots, because it's a 450 degree oven. You need like heavy duty mitts. Get those out, pop the lid off. Just set this gently down in, lid back on in the oven. Bake for 30 minutes with the lid on. Take the lid off, and usually around another 15-20 minutes, and then you have a beautiful golden brown loaf, and I will show you all of that. So hang on tight with me, and I will get these in the oven, and I will show you the beautiful end product. Okay, so I've got the pot here, super hot. Just take that lid off, grab the corners of my parchment paper. You can see the bread loaf there. After you've formed the loaf, kind of let it sit for another 30 to 40 minutes on the counter before you put it in the oven, because it gets a little bit of a rise, but you won't see the height increase too much. And then this is just going to go in the oven. Okay, so set a timer for 30 minutes, and then we'll be back to check on it after that. Here we've got the garlic parmesan bread, and I'm just going to take this it's an X-Acto bread knife here. I'm just going to make some designs very lightly, nothing fancy. do something a little different on this one. And this heart might not show up well, but it'll still be fun to see what happens. Okay, so these are gonna go in the pots in the hot oven. Got the breads just set in the bottom of the pots here, and I'm just gonna get their lids back on. And we'll get these baking. All right, so it's been about 45 minutes. The bread was in the oven for 30 minutes with the lid on and 15 minutes with the lid off. Let's take a look and see how it looks. Look at how delicious that looks. So golden, nice rise. Now this is the garlic rosemary Parmesan bread, where I took the roasted garlic, Parmesan cheese, fresh rosemary, and added that to the dough base. These up here are just the regular, what I call a Artisan country loaf, just a normal white flour loaf, but just they look so good. The house smells just absolutely amazing, roasted garlic and rosemary smell. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial video on making artisan bread loaves, and thanks so much for watching. I'm going to be trying to do a video or two a week on cooking, baking, pressure canning, water bath canning, just some things that we do on the farm to preserve our food. You'll see some gardening tips and farming tips videos kind of coming out as we progress on our farm. Hopefully next week we can do just a short video about what our farm's all about. Thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Have a great day.